Hello! I've just read chapter 5 of The Last of the Jedi, Dark Warning, or almost said the Desperate Mission, Dark Warning. I wasn't sure whether I'd even read this chapter today, but I did, I read it today, and I'm quite happy with it. When I said I wanted the chapters to slow down a little bit with the action, this isn't necessarily what I meant. Hopefully we can slow down a little bit within the next few chapters. I think we are going to get a few talking scenes, because we're nearly halfway through the book, you know. Next chapter is chapter 6. Once we get to chapter 8, we're going to be halfway through the book. So about the first half of the book is already just fight, one chapter after another. But this chapter, when I said I was hoping for a few more calmer chapters where there wasn't that much action, I didn't mean just walking through a forest, canyon and plains for most of the chapter and having a quick conversation at the beginning. That's not what I meant, but then we get back to fighting. But let's just go through and summarise what happened. So the pilot that was aiming her blaster at Obi-Wan and Ferris and Trevor, she's standing on the hull of the ship with both of her, and holding the blaster with both of her hands. Obi-Wan force pushes her over, while Ferris raises his blaster, and Obi-Wan leaps over and brings his lightsaber to her neck. And she's surprised to see Obi-Wan, because he's a Jedi. And she's just... I'm just going to go over her description because I want to remember it. She's a humanoid. She's not human. She's a humanoid with blue eyes, an auburn braid, and she's wearing 2 blasters on her chest, along with sheening armour. I assume that's silver, and she's also a pilot and had a pilot helmet. But yeah, she's shocked to see Obi-Wan as a Jedi. She thought them all dead. Hold on. Let me go through the chapter again quickly. Well, not read it quickly, but you know what I mean. Just quickly skim. Obi-Wan asks who she is. She introduces herself as Rayna Quill. And she's a commander in the Akarin Resistance. And she says, Rayna Quill, I'm a commander in the Akarin Resistance. Pleased to make your acquaintance. That is, if you can manage to take a lightsaber off my neck. We learn that she was intentionally forcing Ferris and the others down because they were moving into enemy territory where there was a turbo laser. So she was trying to help them. And Ferris asks, who's the enemy? And which seems a bit of an odd question, but she says that they're fighting the Empire. And Ferris goes, but you were separatists. And she says that doesn't mean we support the Empire. And we learn that Akarin was a planet wanting to have independence from the Republic. They were wanting to leave the Republic. And they were starting to work on the truce at the end of the Clone Wars. And then the Empire came and they got a look at the Empire. They decided to call off the truce. and they kept fighting instead. For now, it's been a year since they've been fighting, and the Empire was expecting to take them down in a couple of weeks, but they are on their last legs. They've retreated to their central city of Eluthan. I'm getting a little bit ahead, because when Rhaenys explained why she tried to lower them down, that's when Obi-Wan deactivates his lightsaber. So I did get a little bit ahead there, but that's why we learn why they were fighters. We learn that they evacuated most of the citizens from Elutha. And that they can walk there. Obi-Wan asks her if she knew of the commander of the Republic around doing the truce, I assume, and she's Garamullan, and she says yes. She says that she did meet him once when they were doing the truce, and that her commander Toma was with him on the day of Order 66. And she says that they better get to Eluthan and they can talk with Toma there. And we see that, and Ferris glances over to Obi-Wan, and he knows just how much that Obi-Wan was. Sorry, pardon me. We see Ferris knows just how close of a friend Garen was to Obi-Wan. Yeah, he was a good friend. Sorry, I'm having to look in the chapter because I get invested toward the end of the chapter because these chapters are so short. And again, I'm glad they are short, but because again, digestible. But it is still, I'm getting invested in them toward the end of the chapters, unfortunately. So this is why I have to keep looking into the book. So if I pause, that's what in these reviews, that's what I'm doing. And we learn that Ferris has met him once as an apprentice in what is still thought as a previous life. And they start making their way over to, what was it? Eluthan? Oh, that's what it was. I keep forgetting the name. And we learn that during the Clone Wars they fortified the city, and that they got a shield operating, and they believe that it will protect them from anything, and Obi-Wan thinks not from the Empire. And we learn that the Empire has ringed the city, and they've got droid scouts there. Trevor's getting tired, so Ferris hands him some protein bars. And they go out from the canyon, go out from the woods into plains with large stones rising up to hundreds of meters. And they eventually see a combat assault vehicle, a CAV. I'm just going to call them CAVs from now on. That's what the book does. And also it's just so much simpler to say CAV. But they spot a CAV, they hide, and they're able to hide from quite a lot of them until they come across a group of droids, and there are droids driving CAVs with surveillance probes, but they eventually come across a squad of droids and have to fight them. Ferris miraculously does not get hit. Then Ferris goes and dives and roundhouse kicks one of the droids, while Obi-Wan slices one of them and destroys the control panel suite on the other, and the 2 other droids go and hide. Reyna says, and other CAVs are coming, and Reyna says to go and sort out the other 2 droids. She'll set off a smoke bomb, a smoke grenade that would be able to, because the wind's blowing in the southeast, which is where the CAVs are coming from, and they'll be able to make a quick escape into the city of Eluthan. So Obi-Wan takes out the 2 droids very quickly before they can even turn around and see him, while Reyna sets up the smoke grenade, and they walk over to the what was it? To the wall, which is noted to be of great beauty, because it's not just our practicalities, it's also quite beautiful apparently, with lots of patterns of grey and dark blue. And Obi-Wan and Ferris, the guards stop. It might stop at just the grandeur of it. And they eventually get in through this secret entrance, in through the wall. They get in with Reyna pressing a few stone buttons. The stone wall slides back, and it is also a sheer wall. A big stone moves back, and Reyna motions them in and says, "Welcome to Eluthan," and that's where we end off the chapter. When I said I wanted it to kind of slow down for a little bit, this was not what I meant. I know last chapter kind of slowed down. I know last chapter did sort of slow down. But it did still feel like we were still moving at 100 miles an hour. This definitely is, we started to slow down a bit here. I think I like the lore that we're learning. I don't know if Akkarin appeared before the last of the Jedi. I assume it didn't because of how much it's been told to us. But I do think maybe it could have. Maybe it has appeared before. I don't know. But so far, I like the lore about it. I like that it's a separatist world. I think that is quite a nice kind of flip on its set, on the on having the Jedi fight for the separatists in Obi-Wan and Ferris. I think that is quite interesting. Well, former separatists and technically former Jedi, let's be honest, but well, former Jedi and a Jedi. So yeah, I think it is implied that Garen Uln, or Mulan, whatever it was, he has such a ridiculous last name, but I think it is implied, yes, he is dead. I could be wrong on that though, I could be wrong, but I think it is implied he's dead. I'm going to be interested to see where this goes. I do hope it isn't a repeat of Belasa, of what happened in the last book. I think, because it is, again, a resistance against the Empire, I do want it to be different from what it was in the last book. And I think we're going to be getting that because this is a proper full-on a full-on war, compared to what was going on Belasa, which was more of encouraging the people of Belasa to rise up rather than and play their part in slowly crippling the Empire rather than full-on fighting them. So I think this is different enough from Belasa, but I'll need to see more. And I do hope we don't spend too much time on Akkarin, because again we have. I don't want I know Police Master is going to be relevant because again, Inquisitor Sankor, I know what happens with him. I know he dies on Police Master, so I do hope we get enough time on Police Master to keep everything nicely paced. And I do think, hopefully, we don't spend too much time on Akkarin because again, this does seem like it's a bit of a side quest, but it is also the main quest because they're needing to get a ship because they just destroyed the 2 ships that they had and they've had to walk all the way there through kilometres and kilometres, literally. Oh yeah, the sky on Akkarin is yellow. That's random, but I know. I needed to bring it up. But yeah, I do hope we don't spend too much time on Akkarin. But I do still hope we get to see enough, and also still hope that we get enough on Polish Master. Again, I think I am apparently we're also going to be on Ilum soon, so I do hope the book isn't overpacking itself, because it's already spent pretty much a quarter of its first half just being action, and half of its first half, sorry, just being action. It's a quarter of the book, action. Chapter after another chapter after another chapter after another chapter. So I do, and this chapter did again slow down, but I think it did get back into that action towards the end. And I do think that, and I do hope that it's not just going to be action throughout the entire thing. I think one of the things about the Desperate Mission that was quite good, was how it was a bit of a slow burn. And then things really started to pick up about halfway through when Ferris was finally found. And that was really when things started to pick up, and I do think maybe this, and I do know this is picking up straight from the Desperate Mission, but we do need to acknowledge it is another book, not the same book. It is, even though it is a direct continuation, it is still a separate book, and I do think maybe the pacing is a bit too quick early on. But again, it is meant to be a second book that literally is leading right off the cliffhanger of the first book. So I can't be too moody, but it does feel a bit like maybe we've gone from 0 to a minute to 100 very quickly. But again, if it does start to slow down a little bit, then hopefully, things will hopefully turn out alright, fingers crossed. But yeah, and I do hope, and I do still have high hopes for Dark Warning, but yeah, it's just been so much action with very little to actually talk about, because it is action. It is hard to get a proper feel on what's going on to get a proper opinion on the book so far. So yeah. But anyway, that should do it for my review of, what was it, Chapter 5 of The Last of the Jedi, Dark Warning. I almost said Desperate Mission, but no, Dark Warning, not the Desperate Mission. So, yeah, thank you all for watching, and goodbye. Hello, I've just read Chapter 6 of The Last of the Jedi, Dark Warning. So we open up with Obi-Wan, Ferris, Trevor and Reyna walking through the city of Eluthen, and it's in a bit of a random pattern. It's quite tall. The buildings are a few floors tall, and they eventually come over to a school which we learn the students, some of them joined the Akkarin resistance. Some of them offered the school up, all of them pretty much offered up the school as a base of operation for the Akkarin resistance, and they've got a roof that extends over the grass plaza where the ships park. And Trevor said, or maybe they just wanted to get out of classes, and Reyna Quill laughs and says maybe. They enter the school, they come over to the hall, and they see a bald man. And Obi-Wan assumes that this is Toma, and he's correct. And he looks to be very impassive with his expression, but he sees how relieved and relaxed he is to see Reyna, thinking that she had been shot down and killed. And she introduces Ferris, Trevor and Obi-Wan to him, and he's a bit, and it's described as him looking at Obi-Wan searchingly, so I think he's a little bit sceptical, but he's honoured to be with the Jedi and wants to know some of their advice, and wants him to bring advice in the battle they're about to participate in. And Ferris offers up to join the pilots and says he'll do anything to have a whack against the Empire. And Obi-Wan didn't want Ferris to go. He didn't want him to go. But there was nothing he could do about it. He wasn't his Padawan. It wasn't his place. And Obi-Wan didn't want to get in the fight because, of course, he still has a duty for Luke and Leia. He still needs to be able to go there and protect him, and he doesn't want to get in any unnecessary fights. Trevor wants to go, but Ferris tells him that he should probably sit this one out. And Trevor says he's tired of being left behind, and Ferris tells him that... Well, let me just read off the interaction, because I do really like Trevor and Ferris's relationship. Don't fret, Obi-Wan, I'll just do a little damage and come back to get you, Ferris said easily. I want to go, Trevor said. Sorry, Kit, Ferris said. Not this time. I'm really getting tired of being left behind. I don't think stowaways have a choice, Ferris said. And Obi-Wan does try to start to talk to Toma about Garen Mullen, and then that's when the alarm goes off that the Empire has surrounded the city of Eluthan and that they need to start the battle. And then Toma asks Obi-Wan if he wants to give his advice in the battle, and Obi-Wan suggests not going around the Imperial fleet because a lot of them like to do the pincer movement, and then because a lot of commanders like to do pincer movement, and he suggests going straight through them. It's more dangerous, but it's gonna also assist with their left flank and stuff. And Toma takes note, but Obi-Wan isn't really that hopeful because he knows that they've lost. There's a bit of a space battle. We don't really see much of it. We just know that they're losing, and Obi-Wan says, and Toma and Obi-Wan know that they're going to lose, and Obi-Wan says that to just surrender, and that is an option. And and let me just try and find... This is a bit of a longer chapter than the other ones in the book so far. They're losing their best. Obi-Wan knows they can't hold out. Toma thinks that they didn't hope to defeat the Empire, they just hoped that there could be enough of a nuisance for the Empire to back off. But Obi-Wan says they would never back off. And says that their reach is a stranglehold and that they would never let go. And Toma says that if he pulls the pilots back, the battle will be lost. And Obi-Wan says if it must be done, it should be done. And so Toma recalls all the pilots back, and he has a word with Admiral Wibble. That's another funny name in the... First we have Gurdon, then Wheezy, now we've got Wibble. R-I-W-W-E-L. and Toma says he's prepared to surrender his pilots to have safe passage, and Akarun agrees to become part of the Empire, and Wibble I may try to call him the Admiral at this point, but Wibble says that after what they've done, and after all the deaths they've caused to his forces, that is acceptable, and they need to be punished for their disloyalty, and they do not accept their surrender on their terms, but instead they will accept their surrender on his terms, which is the complete annihilation of Eluthan, with its destruction. And they start to bomb it, and Toma is a bit of, oh, what have I done? And Obi-Wan assures him that no, this isn't your doing, this is what they have done. And he tells them that they need to call the pilots off and tell them not to return, and otherwise they'll be destroyed. That's what Obi-Wan tells him. Also, Toma is a bit resistant against the annihilation. With Rebel to begin with, he says, "No, it is our ancient city, revered by all Akarans, the site of our most precious treasures." You should have thought about that before you made it your base. I don't know why I keep thinking of Rebel with that really high-pitched voice. You should have thought about that before you made it your base. Sorry. Should have thought about that before you made it your base. Do you think after what has happened, after the many deaths of our forces, that this is acceptable? You must pay for your disloyalty, and I do not accept your surrender terms. You will surrender on our terms. It's like the main Spanish Inquisitor in the Spanish Inquisition sketch of Monty Python with that high voice. Sorry, I've gone a bit off. Oh, I've lost the page now. I've gone a bit off topic. Obi-Wan tells him to call off the pilots so they are not destroyed in the bombing. Toma says that they're already quite close. But he tells them to not return to Eluthan and to take evasive action. Evasive action, reversal of fortune, recruitment, prey and endgame. If you don't know, those are Star Wars web strips. It got a little chuckle out of me because it's evasive action. And the ships are already bombarding them. And all the pilots make it through, but to Obi-Wan's dismay, two of them are still flying towards the school that's now the base of operation, and it's Ferrus and Reyna, and Obi-Wan thinks, oh, that's Ferrus and Reyna, and Toma goes, no, they'll get caught in the bombing. I don't know why I'm thinking of Toma as this old man. But then Toma explains that that there's a secret hangar, and that Reyna's probably going there, and in that secret hangar he has a star cruiser that they can escape in, and so Toma, Obi-Wan and Trevor start making their way over to the hangar, and Obi-Wan says to Trevor, stay close, and Trevor goes, what's I like Trevor because of his attitude, but what's Trevor said? Stay close to me. I'm not going to argue with that, Trevor said. And the building starts to shake and crack, and it starts to rain dust. Again, because of the bombing, but it's still holding up, and they start to make their way down, but they're being followed by 5 stormtroopers, and 20 stormtroopers are ahead. Obi-Wan tries to turn around, figuring it out. Once he figures it out, and Toma goes, "No, that leads to a dead end! We have to go this way!" I keep thinking, to be fair, that's a bit of an exaggerated voice, I think, with Toma. It is a bit more of a, "No, that's a dead end, we have to go this way." But no, anyway, Obi-Wan thinks, so well, he can't have them all, and so he goes ahead with lightsaber in hand, with Toma next to him with blaster in hand. Trevor finds a closet labelled athletic equipment and finds laser balls in there for some reason, and Trevor said asked Obi-Wan to let him take the lead because of the laser balls, and Obi-Wan's a bit cautious, but Trevor tells him to trust him. And there wasn't really much time to argue because again the stormtroopers are coming, so Obi-Wan lets him go ahead, but he makes sure to be beside him to protect him. Once the 20 stormtroopers do arrive, Ferris is still in the air piloting, isn't he? Trevor starts flicking his hand away with the laser balls, and the stormtroopers are confused at first, and they try to dodge them, and they start bumping into each other and knocking each other over, and they try to shoot at Obi-Wan and Toma and Trevor and presumably a few others. But I think it is just Obi-Wan, Trevor and Toma, because no one else is described as being with them. But the stormtroopers start bumping into each other. Toma takes the right flank to start firing on them. Obi-Wan leaps in there and starts cutting them up with his lightsaber. They make their way to the hangar. Toma is looking at the vid screen. He says starts talking about something, and I need to check it to know what he was talking about. Hang on. He says that they're underground and he can activate an opening when they see Ferris and Reyna, and it's concealed in the side of the building. And Obi-Wan looks at the Star Cruiser, sees it's a bit of a battered ship, and Thomas says that it looks like that, but it's got all the weaponry you need. It's got a hyperdrive. Now, what does he say? He says, "I know," Thomas said. It doesn't look like much. It's not supposed to. But it's got a tweaked hyperdrive and all the firepower you could want." And then Trevor says, "Look," as he sees the 2 starfighters. They make it into the hangar as Toma opens the door. Reyna quickly gets out of hers as it bursts into flames, and all of Ferris's controls went out in the final dives, and he's trying to cut himself out with a vibro cutter, but Obi-Wan helps him get out with his lightsaber. Ferris explains what had happened again with losing all of his controls, even the manual stuff. And the stormtroopers enter the hangar, and everyone gets into Toma's ship. Reyna starts flying it away, and they start to fly through the city being destroyed. It's like Taris all over again. Poor. But it's Saul Kavith and Darth Malak. No, I'm joking. And Reyna's a bit upset, but she doesn't really have a lot of time to be upset. What does she say? No, it's a page ahead. "I can't believe it," Reyna cried. "I can't believe they're destroying the city." But they a missile begins to be locked onto them. Reyna dives into the canyon with them standing stones from the last chapter. torpedo is destroyed on that, and I'll just read out the interaction because it is extremely funny. They've locked a missile on our position, Obi-Wan called. I've got to take us through the standing stones, Reyna said. Isn't this ship a little big? Ferris asked. There's no room to manoeuvre. I've done it before on a training exercise, Reyna assured him. That was in a starfighter, Toma pointed out. And you crashed your ship. Is he kidding? Trevor asked. Reyna shook her head. Toma never kids. Oh, good, Trevor gulped. And Reyna flies over the walls of the city. She dives down into the canyon. The torpedo crashes into the standing stone. Obi-Wan grips the console as another giant stone comes flying towards them, and Reyna flips the ship sideways and then zooms around another one, and Obi-Wan thinks it's almost like flying with Anakin. And he feels happy for a moment, and then remembers the rest of what happened with Obi-Wan, and it pleases him, and he thinks Anakin. Other starfighters dip down, and they keep getting destroyed in standing stones, so most lurk back up, while one continues to chase Reyna. Reyna eventually dives the ship really close to the ground and cuts off all speed as they charge another stone. That's going to be pretty much going to be too narrow for them to get through. Even Obi-Wan says, "You're never going to make that." And the pilot that was chasing them, he tries to go sideways to fit through, but he is a bit too distracted by Reyna's manoeuvre and winds up going headlong into the the standing stone, and then Reyna slowly makes her way through the canyon after that. And Obi-Wan is curious as to why she's going so slow. And I know there was something Ferris said. I need to check it again. The starfighters are still up there, Ferris said, his eyes on the nav screen. That's what it was. And as they get towards the edge of the stone field, the stone suits start to get further apart. As Obi-Wan wonders why Reyna's going so slowly, that's when dusk hits. The light from the sun, as it dips down, it makes the sky go navy blue, and there's a brilliant orange fire, as it's described. It's just really light. We know that covers the standing stones while it covers the canyon in shadow. And Toma says they call that the Eluthan flames, I think. Yeah, we call them the flames of Eluthan, Toma said. And the walls of the canyon go black with shadow. And that's when Reyna does a burst of speed. And Toma says that they're going to be able to... Reyna says that they're going to be able to use the shadows as a way to hide for it. Toma says that the ship has a cloaking device, but it drains a lot of power. And apparently they activate it. I don't know when, but they do. And eventually... hold on. It'll make it hard for the ships to for the starfighters to get a visual sighting, as Reyna does some amazing flying. Trevor said, "If you ever want to give piloting lessons, sign me up," he said. And Reyna gives a nod with a very serious expression. And she knew how slim their chances were to outrun or outfox a squad of Imperial starfighters, which I assume are meant to be Imperial TIE fighters. And it then describes the wide navy blue sky looming up ahead. And they were almost out of the canyon. Raina shot up into the dusky sky and headed up to the outer atmosphere. I'm kind of paraphrasing what's said in the book here. And she's pushing the speed to maximum. I'll just read the end of the chapter here. "We made it," Trevor crowed. We're losing the cloaking device," Raina said. "Just a few more seconds," Thomas said, scanning the sky. But Obi-Wan's eyes were on the screen. He saw the blinking dots reverse direction. "They've spotted us," he said. And that's where we end the chapter. I know I kept saying I wanted a chapter that was a bit slower. But I was mainly wanting a chapter that was a bit more talking. When I said slower. And this is kind of the chapter that I was waiting for. I do think maybe it is still quite action-packed. There really has not been a chapter that hasn't had some kind of action so far. And the next chapter's chapter 7, and we're almost halfway through the book. I'm on page 52 out of, what was it, 39? 139, I mean. So, yeah, but I am quite glad that this is a bit more of a talking chapter. There is a lot of talking in there, but it is also balanced out with the dialogue mainly being related to the action. I think this is probably the most entertaining of the action chapters so far. It's the longest chapter in the book so far, but it's definitely the most entertaining of the action chapters so far. And it really did send you a bit of a roller coaster. And it's got a bit of everything in there, this chapter. You know, you've got the banter between Ferris. We haven't got Ferris's quippy remarks, so maybe not everything, but you know, we've got the banter between Trevor and Ferris, which again I really do like their banter. It really is funny. I think them two are really funny, and I know Trevor's in the next book. I don't know if he sticks around for any longer than the next book, I'm afraid. I do not know if he does. I think he may be in Death on Naboo, and then I don't think he appear, and he may not appear again after that. I don't know. Maybe he does. I don't know. Don't spoil it for me. If I'm going to be spoiled, I want it to be done by myself. But I enjoy this chapter quite a bit, and especially with Obi-Wan, you get to see how he's been a bit cautious because of Luke and Leia. But again, you get a bit of that sadness with Anakin. Again, there's not really anything new with Last of the Jedi. You know, we had very similar things in the previous book, The Desperate Mission, but I do quite like them in here as well. I think they were done better in The Desperate Mission, but I do quite like them in here as well. And I do like seeing just how hopeless Obi-Wan is for the people of Akkurin when they're moving into the battle, because he just knows there's no way they can win, and it's just doing his best, I guess, to try and hold it together and survive. Ferris. Again, there's not really how much to talk about Ferris in this chapter. Trevor has got a lot of quips. Trevor is described as having an attitude, and he definitely has one. And his attitude leads to a lot of funny lines. But in the first book, he had, "Oh no, not you again." In this chapter, you know, he's got. "Stay close to me, can't argue with that." Or, "Is he kidding?" "Toma never kids." "Oh, good." Trevor has a lot of funny quips that aren't really that I don't think are intended to be funny, but they just wind up being funny. Whereas Ferris has a lot of quips that are intended to be funny, and I do quite like Trevor and Ferris. In this chapter as well, I think it did quite good in displaying Obi-Wan's, again, helplessness, but also, and despair, but also how Toma's confidence in being able to, in trying to be a nuisance to the Empire. And again, you see that he tries to have at least reasonable expectations. He doesn't expect to defeat the Empire, but he expects to be enough of a nuisance to just annoy the Empire away from Akkarin, which Obi-Wan knows that will never work. But Toma keeps his expectations low, and the people of Akkarin keep their expectations low. And yeah, I do hope we get to see a little bit more of Reyna and Toma. I do hope we get to develop them a little bit more, because again, so far, a lot of what they've had to be done in the moments of action. So there isn't a whole lot. There isn't really a scene where they're just sat talking and we learn about them. So far, everything we know about them has also been in moments of action. Aside from maybe the moments where Reyna's explaining about the school and Trevor makes his quip and Reyna laughs. Again, but I do hope we get to see a bit more of them. I know Reyna appears in some of the future books, because I googled her to see if she later was a species confirmed, but no, she doesn't. I was very careful not to check on any of the personal biography things, and whether she dies or not, but I know she appears in some of the later books. There's not really a whole lot for me to talk about, so yeah. This is one of those chapters where I want to say so much more about it, but I just can't really figure out what to say. I'm intrigued to see where it ends off. Again, though, I do hope we eventually reach a chapter where we just have, even if it's just for a few pages, even if it's just for 2 or 3 pages, where we just have 4 pages or 5 pages, where we just have the characters sitting down and talking and just having a bit of and just being just slowing down for a moment, because so far the book has just been action, with really the only moment of slowing down being in the last chapter, chapter 5, where they're walking through the plains and Obi-Wan and Ferris are first meeting Reyna. So I do hope we get a little bit more of the and also Reyna taking them through the streets of Eluthan. But I do hope we get a bit more of Reyna and Toma. Again, I am liking their characters, but I think we need to see a bit more of them. Yeah, I was about to go into a list, but I've already said what I was going to be saying, so there's not really a whole lot more points into continuing. Let's just leave it at, I enjoyed the book, enjoyed the chapter. I'm looking forward to chapter 7. Well, I'm going to have a break for an hour or so, maybe a few hours, you never know. I typically have a few hours break between chapters, but I went straight from 5 to 6, so in this time, so I did a review of 5 and then straight into 6, so yeah. I am looking forward to chapter 7. I know that's going to be an action chapter though, because of the way this chapter ended. They're being caught, they're being sighted, and now they need to escape. Oh, phew, sorry. Computer started to go black. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next chapter. And yeah, I gotta just stop blabbering on now. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.